like I've had many women in my coaching practice, let's say, who were under constant stress from the men in their immediate environment who wouldn't cooperate with them.
Yeah.
And my point always was, look, it's not surprising that these men aren't cooperating with you. You're a threat. You're very good at what you do. And they're not only trying to be good lawyers, they're trying to win. And you are actually doing the winning. And so they're not going to help you. And the objection of the women, who were agreeable women, say, so more on the feminine end of the spectrum, was, well, we're all on the same team. We should be pulling together. It's like, well, that isn't exactly how competitive men work. Is that partly they're conscientious, which is the primary characteristic of a high-achieving lawyer, as well as high verbal intelligence, but they also tend to be very disagreeable, especially if they're litigators, and obviously they're disagreeable because they wouldn't be litigators otherwise. Disagreeable men are competitive, and they want to win, and it's another thing that we won't talk about, we can't talk about, is how in the world men are supposed to compete with women. Because men don't know how to compete with women. It's like winning is preferable to losing, let's say, but it also tends to make you into something of a bully. And that's a big problem in competitive environments because the competition is actually part of what drives the productivity.
That's right.
So it's also not a straightforward thing to sort out at all. And I don't know exactly what we're going to do about that, but so some of what's regarded as, say, prejudice against women, some of that can be merely attributed to the fact that men are competitive and they treat each other harshly as well. It's not as if it's limited to their... In fact, I know perfectly well that it's essentially mitigated in the case of women. Men are harsher with each other than they are with women, even though they can be plenty harsh with women. So, but... It's part of what's accepted as normative in primarily male situations.
Sure. And that it's a different, that kind of needling or the casual insults. I mean, that it's not taken as offensive often in male only groups. It's almost a way of bonding.
Yeah, well, and it's also part of the mutual testing that goes on. So because one of the things you want to find out from a new work crew member, let's say, and I really saw this when I was working in working class situations, is you really harass the hell out of them for a couple of weeks, put them down, give them nicknames, make fun of them. And a huge part of the reason you're doing that is to see if they have the kind of emotional and psychological integrity that would indicate that they can take a joke, they can give and take, they can stand some competition, and that they're not going to shirk and they're not going to fail in a crisis. And men are good at doing that with each other, and it's harder to do that with women. It isn't obvious exactly how you should do that. And I mean, it can be managed, but it's definitely not the same thing. It's a different thing. And men, I mean, I think part of the reason, too, that men are bailing out of so many university disciplines is because they also don't know how to manage the environment when it becomes female-dominated. They're not exactly sure what the rules of engagement are. Like, with a man I respect, my attitude is something like, no holds barred and let the devil take the hindmost, right? It's something like that. And I can be as harsh and blunt and straightforward as I want to be in a situation like that. And then, but the rules aren't the same when dealing with women. And it isn't exactly that I know what the rules are. I just know that they're not the same. And that's quite confusing. Like in my TV appearances, one of my producers has always cautioned me about panels that are mixed sex. And he said it's very bad form on television to be on the attack in a mixed sex panel because you come across as a bully.
Yeah.
And fair enough, I understand that, but I also don't know what to do about it because it seems like pulling my punches, so to speak, seems necessary but also oddly inappropriate.
Yeah.
It puts me at a loss. I'm not exactly sure how to manage it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the situations where there's a lot of variation among women, And if you don't know anything more about a person other than the fact that they're a woman, you don't know if they're on the sort of male typical, they're more masculine, or they're on the highly agreeable, feminine. You don't know anything about their personality, so you don't know if they're going to be able to handle that give and take.